Breathtaking.
Inspiring.
Exhilarating.
Unique.
You are all winners here today in Berlin.
Very energized and excited.
It's such fun. There is dynamism and energy and enthusiasm and great innovation.
We listen here to 3-minute presentations from people from all over the world.
Jury members have 0 to 5 points to give.
We have the winners of the labs from around the world, so we're dealing with the creme de la creme. And it's very difficult to pitch them against each other and figure out.
I want to talk to you about rhythm, heart rhythm.
How will you feel if you can breathe freely?
The power of developing software lies in the hands of just 1% of all people.
I don't think there's a better networking or learning opportunity that I've ever been a part of.
You get to meet people from all around the world, from very different backgrounds, so the inputs that you can get are massive.
Despite the fact that I'm so well traveled, I still met people here from nationalities that I have never met before in my life.
The biggest highlight is delivering a speech in front of 200 plus people. Another one is learning about research opportunities in Germany.
I will never forget these moments. I'm enjoying myself so much. I'm so grateful to be here. It seems like a great opportunity and it's unforgettable.
It's not only making the walls full, but it's changing lives for the better, and I absolutely love that. It's nothing better.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Paul Richards, Director of Communications and Outreach for the Australian Academy of Science, and I'll be your MC for today. First of all, allow me to welcome all of you to Falling Walls Lab Sydney, open for residents of New South Wales, ACT and Victoria. The Falling Walls Lab Sydney is hosted by DAAD Australia and Your Access Australia and New Zealand, and supported by the Australian Academy of Science and the Federal Foreign Office of Germany. It's exciting to be here as your MC for the event and to see all these researchers ready to share their incredible work. Each presenter has just 3 minutes to make their case, to explain the wall that they wish to break down. We're most grateful to the panel of renowned judges who will select the winners of today's competition. The jury members are Professor Alison Roger, School of Natural Sciences at Macquarie University, Jury Chair. We have Professor Alexander Meyer, Division of Biomedical Sciences and Biochemistry at the Australian National University. Professor Benjamin Rubenstein, Computing and Information Systems at the University of Melbourne. Professor Francis Saparovich, Foreign Secretary of the Australian Academy of Science. Professor Michael Lurch, School of Physics, University of Wollongong. Mr. Michael Reich, Advisor, DAAD Australia. Mr. Nishant Shandilia, Regional Coordinator of Your Access Australia and New Zealand. Professor Rebecca Ivers, School of Population Health, University of New South Wales. Professor Ronica Power, Department of History and Archaeology at Macquarie University. Professor Veena Sahajwala, Centre for Sustainable Materials Research and Technology at the University of New South Wales. Now, Falling Walls Lab brings together young scientists, engineers, professionals from across the globe to present their vision on how to make the world an even better place. I'd now like to introduce the presenters. Breaking the Wall of Paediatric Brain Stimulation, Alex Griffin from the Cerebral Palsy Alliance and the University of Sydney. Breaking the Wall of Artificial Intelligence, Security, Andrew Cullen from the University of Melbourne. Breaking the Wall of Construction Stigma, BUDDHINI GINIGADDARA from the University of Newcastle. Breaking the Wall of Scientific History, CARA Cross from Macquarie University. Breaking the Wall of Eating Disorders, Courtney McLean from Monash University. Breaking the Wall of Costly Image Analysis, HELIA FARHOOD from Macquarie University. Breaking the Wall of Mental Health Care, Madeline Bisbee from Macquarie University. And Breaking the Wall of Dust at Work, Paris Papagiannis from Monash University. Breaking the Wall of Preventable Diseases, Peter Alango from RMIT University. Breaking the Wall of Industrial Lubricant Pollution, Yulong Sun from the University of New South Wales. We'll now proceed and start with the presentations. Each presenter will have 3 minutes to pitch their project, followed by questions or comments from the jury to the presenter. Our first, second and third place winners will be decided by the jury and announced at the end of the event today. There'll also be a People's Choice winner today. And our live stream audience is encouraged to vote for this winner. Following all 10 presentations, the voting will open. The link to vote will be in the comments section of this live stream on YouTube and Facebook. Also, we encourage everyone to engage today, either by YouTube, Facebook or Twitter. Our hashtag for today is hashtag FWLSYD, and you can tag at falling_walls, at youraccess_AusNZ, at DAAD_Australia, and at Science_Academy. Now, please welcome our first presenter, Alex Griffin from the Cerebral Palsy Alliance and the University of Sydney.
Imagine your brain as a massive network of roads with messages travelling in cars or neurons, a type of brain cell, from one place to another. Now imagine there's been a car accident in this network blocking or damaging these roads. Cars can't travel through the affected area. In other words, the flow of information along pathways in our brain is disrupted, and the location of the disruption determines which functions of our body are affected. Cerebral palsy occurs when this disruption happens to areas of the brain controlling movement. It's the most common physical disability of childhood, but guess what? We can change the roads. We can change the pathways in the brain. Neuroplasticity operates a bit like a really impressive road maintenance crew. When you learn a new skill, a new road is built. By practicing this skill over time, this road gets faster and more efficient. But there's a catch. This can be expensive in terms of time and energy. A lot of repetitions are needed, and this generally means a lot of fatigue. So what if we could boost neuroplasticity? What if, through fewer repetitions, we could get bigger improvements in movement? This is where a known safe treatment called TDCS, or transcranial direct current stimulation, comes in. TDCS is a form of non-invasive brain stimulation, and it has the potential to improve movement by providing a boost to the brain during practice of a skill. Now, our brains always have the capacity to change, but childhood represents a time where this capacity is heightened. So, we're going to be testing the delivery of TDCS to children with cerebral palsy to see if it can improve their movement skills. Now, which kids with cerebral palsy will benefit? Well, here's the thing. We want new and innovative treatments available to everyone. And with 30% of Australians living in rural areas and more than 50% of the world in these areas, accessibility is a really important consideration. The great thing about TDCS is it's wearable. You can walk around at home with it on. You put it on your head like a headband. There's 2 small electrodes attached, and it connects to a handheld stimulator unit. So we're going to be delivering this stimulation remotely to children all around the country with some help from their families. We're going to look at how easy it is to set up and deliver remotely and how the stimulation feels for kids. This is the first trial of its kind in the world. It has the potential to change how we deliver treatment to improve movement in kids with cerebral palsy here and worldwide.
Well, thank you, Alex. We now have the floor for questions. Please welcome Rebecca to ask a question.
Thanks very much, and wonderful video, Alex. I love the road analogy. It was wonderful, really presented well. My question is, given this is a known safe treatment, the fact that it hasn't already been rolled out widely suggests to me that there's implementation challenges. Can you tell me how your approach is going to address these? How is it going to be different?
Yeah, so we have a lot of research, a lot of accumulating evidence for this therapy in clinics. So it's quite a new thing. I think it was largely prompted by COVID to start delivering it remotely. So I think it will be first, I guess, the stages of research we need to work through. So firstly, showing that it's feasible for families to set up remotely, that it's just as safe delivered remotely as it is in the clinic, and then looking at how effective it is as well. So there are those steps to sort of take along this road. And then I think it's really important to be working in collaboration with teams all across the world so that we can start to implement this internationally so that we can learn from each other and progress this process. So yeah, I think it's just reconceptualizing this as a remote treatment and working together to establish networks and capabilities to deliver it in that way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much to Rebecca and to Alex. Now, please welcome our second presenter for today, Andrew Cullen from the University of Melbourne.
Hi, I'm Dr. Andrew Cullen from the University of Melbourne, and we're breaking down the walls of artificial intelligence risk and security. While artificial intelligence models are rapidly becoming an integral part of our everyday lives, at this stage users simply aren't aware of just how easily these models can be manipulated and exploited. And as artificial intelligence becomes a greater part of business operations and critical infrastructure, the motivations for people to try and trick them grows ever larger. Imagine you're running a bank and you have a model that predicts the risk of default on a loan. If someone applies for a $100 million loan with no income, they probably justifiably should be rejected from that loan. But can you be certain your model won't be tricked by that same person requesting $100 million and half a cent? Or what happens if you build a system to track fare evaders that fails if someone changes an earring? As humans, we'd never be tricked by such changes. But artificial intelligence models are incredibly sensitive to these kind of small changes to the inputs that can produce strange and counterintuitive changes to the model's behavior. And at this stage, we simply don't have great ways of measuring the risk within these models, or even really understanding where these risks come from, which is concerning, as the consequences of being exploited has the potential to lead to significant financial, legal, or reputational damages. However, all hope is not lost. By building tools that construct and quantify the bounds on the worst-case behavior of a model under attack, we can prove if it's possible for a motivated agent to manipulate the model for their own gain, and thus measure the risk of a model when exposed to those who might seek to exploit it. This is made possible through our novel mathematical work, which allows for measures of risk to attack to be constructed in fractions of a second, which is orders of magnitude faster than current techniques, which can take minutes, hours, or even days to measure the risk to one single input. The beauty of our approach is it can be applied to nearly any model and doesn't require any specialist expertise to deploy. With the aid of such measures of risk, users of machine learning models can be more confident about the behavior of the systems that they're interacting with when exposed to those who may wish to exploit them. By building these tools, we're playing a part in constructing an artificial intelligence-based future that is safer and more reliable for all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Andrew. Now please welcome Michael to ask a question.
Hi, Andrew. Fantastic talk. It's a massive area of development. So I appreciate the context and the impact that you could potentially have with your work. So yeah, really impressive stuff.
Thank you very much.
Just wanted to ask a bit about, could you demonstrate a little bit about your particular role in the novelty of this work and some of the challenges that you had along the way? Because it's a huge task.
Sure. So I'm a mathematician by background, so I really want to try and take mathematical tools and kind of develop mathematical techniques that can be applied to quantify these behaviors in neural network models. And that's been my area of contribution, is working out how we can kind of take mathematical structures, mathematical ideas, and use them to really construct these measures and to improve the measures that currently exist. And so that's kind of where I work and kind of what I'm able to contribute to the field.
Great. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much there, Michael and Andrew. Now, please welcome our third presenter, BUDDHINI GINIGADDARA from the University of Newcastle.
Hi, I'm BUDDHINI GINIGADDARA from the University of Newcastle, Australia. Construction industry is a silent giant accounting for 13% of global gross domestic product. In Australia, this number is closer to 9%, and it is one of the largest employers who is also suffocating from skill shortages. Construction plays a significant role in most countries, creating job opportunities. However, similar to many countries, even in Australia, it is perceived as a male-dominated, dusty, dirty, blue-collar industry with the bare minimum levels of efficiencies, the lowest industrialization, and also digitalization. In the world's built environment, 37% of global energy-related greenhouse gas emissions are coming from construction. In Australia, 1/5 of total emissions are accounted for construction. Modern methods of construction, such as prefabrication, advanced manufacturing using robotics, are portraying new dimensions on how construction can be reinvigorated. Making buildings in a factory, just like a car manufacturing assembly line, is one way to change this masculine construction sector and modernize it to match the 21st century. These modern methods are far from the traditional on-site stick-built construction. They also help to attract more female workers while achieving sustainable development goals. These modern methods of construction can be achieved through people, process, and technologies. Under people, I have developed a skill profile prediction model to identify the most emerging as well as the least required skills for off-site construction. In my current research, I provide construction training to migrant and refugee women who are trying to find jobs in a new country, in a new environment. Also, I research about the attitudes and mindsets of Gen Z youth who are reluctant to join the construction sector. I am helping to change the current 13% female representation in construction and allow equal job opportunities for both these kids to have a fulfilling construction career in the near future. As such, through my research, I am breaking the wall of construction stigma. Thank you.
Thank you, BUDDHINI. Now, please welcome Ronica to ask a question.
Fantastic. Hello, BUDDHINI, and thank you for such a beautifully delivered and fascinating presentation. And in your presentation, you clearly articulated stereotypes associated with the construction industry, but I felt it needed a bit more emphasis on what is stigmatized and how your research explicitly addresses this or these stigma. So can you clarify which or what stigma you are referring to and how your research explicitly addresses it or them, please?
Thank you so much, Ronica. We all have seen, even if you saw the latest movie, Barbie, if you see the movie, construction is male-dominated, men at work, not women at work. So it is always seen as a male-dominated place where others are reluctant to join. Even if you join the industry, it feels like, should I retain? There are so many things that retaining women from joining the construction sector. Not only that, new kids, Gen Z kids who have lived entirely throughout the internet world, they are reluctant to join a industry where it is not sustainable. They are worried about the climate crisis, climate anxiety is there. So I'm looking at how this stigma can be changed. How can we change the mindsets of youth as well as the migrant and refugee women, also women, to join the industry and make it a equivalent place and make it a diverse place to work in.
Excellent, BUDDHINI. Thank you so much. Congratulations and well done.
Thank you, Ronica.
Yes, thank you very much, Ronica and BUDDHINI. Now let's please welcome our fourth presenter, CARA Cross from Macquarie University.
Wayaboo everyone, my name is CARA Cross. I'm a proud Goori woman from the Worimi and Biripi nations of the mid-north coast of New South Wales from the Gatang language group, with family connections to the Gringai, Wonnarua and Yuin nations. I'm a research fellow specialising in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health, wellbeing and education, and an Aboriginal historian with a particular research interest in traditional Aboriginal medicine and practice. I'm speaking to you from the lands of the Wallumattagal people of the Darug Nation and acknowledge elders past and present. Let's talk about breaking the walls of scientific history, the world's oldest surviving continuing culture utilised and traded in mineral medicines, which places Aboriginal Australians as likely the very first people on Earth to mine, manufacture, use and trade in pharmaceuticals. However, this fact is relatively unknown as much of our scientific cultural knowledge has continued to be passed down through family lines. This knowledge aims to rewrite the history books, providing Aboriginal people with an aspect of our identity and cultural scientific knowledge that was almost lost, denying us an important part of our cultural identity. To address this problem, we need to break the walls of scientific history by truth-telling and amplifying the accomplishments of Aboriginal people. My research aims to decolonise this knowledge and return it to Aboriginal people as a whole, so that this important aspect of Aboriginal healing knowledge is repatriated, reclaimed and revived. A broader understanding of Aboriginal culture and history in our schools, universities and communities is needed to return to Aboriginal people a rich scientific cultural identity in which all of Australia can take pride. Since the dreaming, Aboriginal people all over the continent have been using a variety of minerals such as sulphur, ochre, alum and gypsum to produce multi-use pharmaceuticals that included tablets, pills, ointments, washes, crystals and creams, which were traded great distances. Opportunities like this to present on Aboriginal lithotherapeutics, that is, mineral medicines, contributes to filling the gap that exists in the current understanding of the non-botanical medicines of the Aboriginal pharmacopoeia, expanding the known scope of the Aboriginal medicine practice. Australia is home to the world's oldest surviving continuing culture, who were the first inventors, first astronomers, first miners and first scientists. Walls will fall by embedding this scientific cultural knowledge in our history books and school curriculum, which is an important step towards reconciliation. The knowledge that Aboriginal people are likely also the first ancient culture to have utilised sulphur and alum medicinally and the world's first pharmacist is breaking the walls of scientific history. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Cara. Now, please welcome Francis to ask a question.
Thank you, Cara. That was a really exciting presentation. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Could you give us some examples of the medicinal or therapeutic use of sulphur and alum and how these compounds would have been obtained?
Yes, so we had sulphur and alum was pretty much commercial grade at Burning Mountain on Wanneroo country. It was pushed to the surface out of a coal seam that was on fire, and it's still on fire today. It's the world's longest burning coal fire. And that medicine was mixed with kangaroo fat or emu oil to make topical ointments, or it was roasted and with clay to make pharmaceutical tablets, which were taken on prescription from the Karaji, which was similar to today, taking any sulfur drug like Bactrim or erythromycin. It's literally take one tablet a day till all gone. So that's pretty much what we were doing.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Francis and Cara. Now, please welcome our fifth presenter, Courtney McLean from Monash University.
I'm here today to tell you about the importance of supporting vegan eating disorder patients. Eating disorders are severe psychiatric illnesses involving a distorted relationship with food and the body. They are some of the deadliest mental health conditions, but trends show only about a quarter of those experiencing symptoms will go on to receive treatment, meaning that many often go undetected and untreated. On the other hand, veganism is the practice of abstaining from animal products. But how is this linked with eating disorders? Well, veganism is often thought of as a form of extreme dietary restraint, a way to restrict large portions of food in a socially acceptable way. In an eating disorder treatment, patients are strongly encouraged to deviate away from veganism as part of their recovery. We know that screening early for eating disorders is key. Early detection and intervention are known to improve speed of recovery and symptom severity. But there is growing literature to suggest that our current screening tools don't do the best job in assessing pathology in vegans because of this overlap in food restriction. To address this gap, I developed the first eating disorder screening tool specialised for vegans, a tool used to clearly separate out those who do and don't need further support. I employed a rigorous methodological design using 4 phases, and throughout these developmental phases, I used a co-designed framework, meaning that I integrated the voices of vegetarians and vegans, people with lived eating disorder experience, and also expert clinicians. The final version of my tool comprises 18 items with excellent initial psychometric properties, meaning that the tool is both valid and reliable. Together, this tool does offer a number of valuable opportunities to the field. First, this tool could be integrated as a standalone measure for initial screening, but also for more comprehensive assessment when combined with other gold standard tools. It could also provide clinicians with a great starting point to begin to decipher their patient's diet from their eating disorder. But most importantly, implementation of this tool means that we are able to intervene earlier in a vegan patient's eating disorder onset, with the goal of minimizing severity and duration of their illness. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Courtney. Now, please welcome Alison to ask a question.
Hi, Courtney. Thank you very much for that. I'm a very sort of practical focused person. So my question relates to how this would work in practice. So if I was a person who needed this intervention, what does the experience look like for me, and what do the output data look like?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. Thank you, Alison. So I'll start by saying that this, I guess, tool development is a preliminary validation. So in terms of the work that I could get done in my PhD, it's just an initial validation at this stage. So we'd love to do some additional research to see how this tool performs in other clinical samples or different eating disorder diagnoses, and also cross-culturally as well, as we know that veganism kind of does change a bit between cultures in terms of Eastern and Western cultures as well. In terms of integration of the screener, I believe it will be best placed within primary care. So our GPs and our allied health professionals do have good access in terms of people coming to them, and they can screen early on in eating disorder development or symptom severity. So integration on primary care was where I believe the school tool best be placed.
And what would it look like for the person on the sufferer, or whatever the appropriate vocabulary is?
Yeah, so this is a screening tool. So most likely if some kind of red flags came up in a health professional's time with a potential patient or with a client, they could walk through the screener with that patient or get them to do it by themselves. And then we have developed a cutoff score, which suggests that that client or that patient should be kind of put on for onward referral to a psychologist for eating disorder screening or eating disorder diagnosis, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alison and Courtney. Now let's please welcome our sixth presenter, HELIA FARHOOD from Macquarie University.
Hi everyone. I'd like to present a solution that aims to break the wall of costly image analysis. We focus on streamlining surface area estimation, so we are reducing the cost of measuring complex objects. Surface area estimation is a key building block to unblocking progress in several fields, from construction and engineering to environmental science, biomedical research, geology, and mining. It's not just merely an area estimate, but also a critical gateway to enhance efficiency and improve quality. But there is a problem. Current methods rely on remote sensing platform, 3D scanner, and drone have built walls around accurate surface area estimation. These walls are expensive and limit the efficiency for indoor cases. Now we present a solution that breaks through these walls. Our streamlined solution for accurate surface area estimation, which have been implemented in the lab setting, has 4 steps. Step 1, we capture a video of a stockpile or object using a mobile phone. Step 2, the video frames are extracted and transformed into individual images. In step 3, using IGI software, we process the extracted images to create a dense 3D point cloud. And in the last step, we generate a mesh from 3D point cloud using the Delaunay triangulation method. And by summing the surface area of individual triangular faces in the mesh, we accurately determine the surface area of complex objects. So, with accuracy and efficiency, we are breaking down the wall of costly image analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, HELIA. Now, please welcome Benjamin to ask a question.
Thank you for your presentation, HELIA. Your surface area estimation pipeline looks really compelling. You suggested potential impact across mining, health, or environmental protection. Could you briefly summarize how surface area estimation can be used in one of those areas? And could end users pick up your method today?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. Yes, I mean, this helpful solution can be useful for biomedical research, for example, for drug delivery system and for tissue and tumor selection. And also it can be helpful for the agriculture crop monitoring and the saving them. And also it can prevent some fire of like tire stockpile, and it can be helpful for the environmental society, and also it can be helpful in the biomedical research, and also for the mining and geological. I think this surface area measurement can have several benefits. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, HELIA, for sharing your work with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Benjamin and HELIA. Now, please welcome our seventh presenter, Madeline Bisbee from Macquarie University.
Depression and anxiety impact 1 in 5 Australian adults every year. I'm sure that each and every one of us know the impact that mental health difficulties can have, not only on those affected, but also those around them. And it's really important that people can receive the mental health care they need when they need it. When we think about what a standard dose of psychological treatment is, it's about 5 to 10 sessions over a couple of weeks to a couple of months. However, when we look around the world, most people only attend a single session of treatment. Most people actually end up dropping out of treatment after just a couple of sessions. But the mental health care system isn't designed for this. It isn't designed for people who just want a brief check-in, who are overwhelmed by the idea of ongoing therapy, or don't have the money to keep paying for the out-of-pocket gap fees. 2.5 million Australians are impacted by a lack of what we call low-intensity services, so things like self-help or intentionally brief treatment. As a result, these Australians are either not receiving any mental health care, or they're receiving much more intensive treatment than they actually need. So what can we do? Well, my research shows that people don't actually need to complete weeks of treatment in order to experience improvements in their mental health. It's actually quite the opposite. People start to show improvements in their depression and anxiety symptoms after only 1 session of treatment. So with this in mind, I created a world-first ultra-brief online treatment for depression and anxiety. This treatment includes just 1 online module, and it's accompanied by a telephone call check-in with a psychologist. As you can imagine, this brief treatment required significantly less time and resources than an example standard treatment on the right. And when we pitted these 2 treatments head-to-head in a randomized control trial, we found that there were no differences in how effective they were for people with depression and anxiety after 2 months. Now, long-term therapy is still a really important option for a lot of people, but ultra-brief treatments, when designed carefully, are the solution to the 2.5 million Australians who need low-intensity mental health care services.
Thank you very much, Madeline. Now, please welcome back Francis to ask a question.
A great presentation, Madeline, and very useful. I was wondering if you're able to screen easily those who require more extensive treatment from those who would benefit from the ultra-brief one. And also, is there a follow-up after the single consultation with the psychologist?
Yes. So in terms of screening who needs further care, what we're actually doing at the moment is running a trial where we give people an ultra-brief treatment like the one I mentioned, and then afterwards we're actually developing a decision aid that helps them to decide whether they need further care or not. So it's kind of, on the one hand, we can suggest further care based on perhaps consistently elevated symptoms of depression or anxiety. But on the more patient-centered side, it's also up to the patient whether they would like to proceed with further care. And so we're actually assessing that at the moment. And then what was your second question, sorry?
Was whether there was a follow-up after the consultation with the psychologist, because, they might need to be checked up a bit later on.
Yes, of course. So the kind of single session therapy or ultra brief approach assumes that rapid change can happen in a single session, but it's not necessarily one and done. So we do encourage people to get back in touch with us if they need to after completing a single session treatment.
but also because of the preliminary nature. As the psychologist, I check in with them a couple of months afterwards. We have a 3-month follow-up to check in and see how they're going. And the randomized controlled trial we're running this year also has a 12-month follow-up as well. So we're trying to see whether people are after additional care as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you, Francis and Madeline. Now, please welcome our 8th presenter, Paris Papagiannis from Monash University.
Hi. We all know what dust is, but maybe we don't know how dangerous it can be. Most of us have these engineered stone benchtops at home. They're 98% silica. In your home, they're safe. It is the workers who cut into this stone who are in danger. Now, just to be clear, silica is the most common mineral on Earth. Sand is silica, and sand is not dangerous. Dangerous silica dust is created when cutting engineered stone or in other construction like mining. When inhaled, it lodges deep in the lungs and causes lung scarring and breathlessness in as few as 5 years. At this point, silicosis is diagnosed. Silica dust is 50 times smaller than a single grain of salt. Its size means that it bypasses the lungs' normal protective mechanisms and settles where oxygen transfer normally occurs. Here, scarring results in rapid loss of lung function. Silicosis cases in Australia have increased by 600 in the last 5 years. That's 1 in 4 people who work with engineered stone. Silicosis is preventable, but it's not curable. The average worker diagnosed is only 36 years old. They're in the prime of their life, and they're certainly not near retirement. Diagnosis requires 3 tests: lung function, x-rays, and questionnaires about your workplace. These tests require hospital visits, specialised doctors, and are invasive and time-consuming. Additionally, many workers don't present at hospitals until they require a lung transplant. We desperately need to break down the walls preventing our ability to detect silicosis early. What if I told you there was a simple, non-invasive breath test that indicated your level of exposure to silica dust? This test analyses tiny chemicals in the breath to inform a worker of their level of risk for developing silicosis. Our lab is trying to identify which of these chemicals are associated with early disease. We envision a traffic light system whereby red chemicals are high risk, amber are be cautious, and green are proceed with normal workplace surveillance. Importantly, this approach takes only 10 minutes, can be done on site, and will identify disease before loss of lung function. Anyone exposed to silica dust in the workplace, whether that be cutting stone, mining, or quarrying, will benefit from this test. We are literally breaking down the walls to reveal early breath biomarkers of dangerous dust at work. Thank you.
Thank you, Paris. Now, please welcome Veena to ask a question.
Yeah, thanks, Paris. That was very impressive and so timely, because I think we've been reading a lot about it as to how much is coming out now. And of course, industries are going to play catch up in terms of regulations and so on. So I think the best thing we can do is really have early detection systems like what you're doing. Has there been no other development that has enabled this kind of early detection to take place, as in, you know, before you have to actually go to the hospital, as you say? Is this kind of one of the first ones, or are there others and this is an advancement?
Yeah, thanks, Veena, for your question. So at the moment, the earliest intervention for screening is that workplace questionnaire. So workplaces that are known to have high levels of dangerous dust are kind of monitored through state government systems. What we would envision is that this breath test would be incorporated with the current screening programs, so that you could have a questionnaire about the workplace, do a breath test to indicate your level of exposure and potential risk. And then if you were at high risk, you could go and then proceed on with the following steps, which would be those hospital visits. So I think in this way, we'd be saving a lot of time. And because of the ease of usability of this test, it can just be done by people after a short training session as well. So yes, as far as I know, this is the earliest way that we can screen on site as well.
I mean, is it kind of something that you would imagine could become more broadly applicable? Because, I mean, you've talked about obviously exposure here in this case to silica, crystalline silica, of course. I assume that's what it is that you're kind of going after, because that's what silicosis is really that disease. But I would assume that there might be other industrial operations, not just in this particular case, other minerals. Are there other ways in which this tool could be used?
Yes, for sure. So we've thought about that extensively. We are fortunate enough to have access to a very well-described cohort of people that work with engineered stones. So that's where we're conducting this pilot. But we can see this being used in mining and tunneling, and anyone that is exposed to dangerous dust at work, even people who have been exposed to burn pits and combat zones, bushfire, smoke. This could all be applicable.
Awesome. Thank you. Great work. Great work. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Veena and Paris. Now, please welcome our 9th presenter, Peter Alango from RMIT University.
Preventable diseases such as cardiovascular diseases are the biggest killers of the Australian population, accounting to about 25% of Australian deaths every year. About 40,000 Australians annually fall victims to cardiovascular-related diseases. We're talking about one death every 12 minutes owing to cardiovascular-related diseases. And nearly half the people who experience a heart attack do not realize it until it's too late, mostly owing to a lack of awareness. When things get worse and the patient visits the hospital, the only prior data the medical doctor has is the patient's previous health checkup and the symptoms they're currently experiencing. Now, this is a problem on multiple levels. In my research, I work towards finding a solution to address this problem. I have developed a novel wearable electrocardiogram technology, also known as a wearable ECG device. Commercially available electrocardiogram units that you see by the bedside in the hospital settings are usually bulky, weighs a few kilograms, and have several wires connecting the user to the device. Whereas my ECG device can fit into the palm of your hands. It is compact and it is wearable. I make use of a novel dry electrode technology. These electrodes have a thickness less than 1/10 the width of the human hair. They are highly sensitive in monitoring the cardiovascular parameters of the user. This wearable ECG device is further enabled with wireless sensing capabilities, which help both the users and the medical doctor to continuously monitor the cardiac vitals of the user. This technology greatly reduces the burden on the healthcare system by enabling precision medicine and personalized healthcare. The implication of this technology is quite widespread, ranging from aged care, neonatal care, athletic performance, and improving the quality of life of everyday Australians. This device has been patented, and I look forward to commercializing and licensing this technology. My dream is a world with zero preventable diseases. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Now, please welcome Ronica to ask a question.
Wow, Peter, that is absolutely sensational. How exciting. I am sure we're all at some stage going to remember the day that we spoke to the guy who invented this game-changing device. So congratulations. It's wonderful to be part of this journey with you. Wow, so impressive. And clearly this would save space and have other technological benefits in the ER and on the ward and in rehab. But can you explain in more detail how you might envisage that this could be introduced out of critical care contexts in preventative medicine?
That's a great question, Veronica. Thank you very much. So we're looking at everyday monitoring, day-to-day healthcare monitoring. Even if you do not have a history of cardiac diseases, this could actually help in a surplus of data, which comes in handy when even eventually in the future, if you have a cardiac event, the medical practitioner would be able to look at your history and extrapolate a sense out of it. We're also looking at neonatal care, where babies tend to move objects which is in the front of the body, so you can attach it to the back of the neck. It works both in the thorax and at the neck region. We're also looking at aged care facility, where people, especially who are prone to dementia and Alzheimer's, might just wake up one morning and then remove the device if it's attached to the chest. So that's where it comes in handy by having a capability to measure while having the device attached to the neck as well. It's basically a patch which you just peel off and then put on your body. Yeah.
Incredible. And can you say at this stage about some of the cost differentials between this device and the more traditional ECG units?
The more traditional ECG units that you find by the bedside monitor in the hospital settings, they cost about close to $500 to $600. That is the most basic unit. And then the advanced ones are about 5,000 to 6,000 Australian dollars. We're looking at a cost of about 30 to 40 Australian dollars for my device when it's manufactured on a large scale. Yeah,
that's incredible, and obviously has huge implications for rural healthcare as well.
Certainly,
and
yes,
remote.
certainly.
Yeah,
Certainly.
Fantastic. Wow, congratulations. I will remember this day for the rest of my life, and hopefully one day benefit from it too. Congratulations, Peter, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Veronica and Peter. Now, please welcome our 10th and final presenter, Yulong Sun from the University of New South Wales.
Lubricants play a very important role in mechanical industry. However, the pollution problem caused by the lubricating oil have affected industry production and social sustainability. So in the past decades, my research has been about breaking the wall of lubricant pollution. In the world, 20% of total energy consumption is used to overcome friction, and due to many lubrication issues, 15 to 40% of the budget is spent on the lubrication tasks. So the reduction in friction can extend the machine life, improve the energy efficiency, and benefit sustainable development. However, traditional lubricants are mainly oil-based. Most industrial machines need to operate in the open air or underwater, so long-term immersion and salting water will make the oil surface lack stability for friction reduction and wear protection. So it needs to repair again and again to help the sustainability and bring the environmental pollution. So my research focused on developing a hydration lubrication system that converts water as a lubricant, so leading to long-lasting and low-friction surfaces. So this innovative approach offers a solution to mitigate water pollution caused by the traditional oil-based lubricants, and there are 3 stages in my hydration lubrication journey. So in the beginning, I use covalent bonds to modify the hydration lubrication surface, and that surface will be destroyed after long-term operation. So I have designed another dynamic technology to achieve a self-healing function and extend the working time and stability. So currently, I'm working on a multivalent approach to applying more properties on the surface except for the lubrication. So in addition to industrial application, so these discoveries hold huge potentials in several research fields, so from treating disease to antibacterials to anti-adherent applications. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Yulong. Now, please welcome Alexander to ask a question.
Yeah, that's great stuff. Thank you very much, Yulong. Fantastic talk. So you already outlined that lubricants based on petrochemicals are used for their stability, and at the same time, that makes them so problematic for the environment. Could you please comment on how you actually balance the longevity and thermostability of the lubricants with the environmental aspirations of your approach?
Yeah, thank you for your questions. So we use some like supermolecular interaction, so like whole scan interaction to modify the molecule on the surface. And at the time we found the problem is like, when we using like one-to-one bonding constant, so they probably, when you do the friction, they're still away from surface. So now we are trying to using, we are control the different numbers of the arms, sort of like, you have a molecule and you got a lot of arms. And some of them probably just away during the friction, but some of them, they still like stick on side. So the rest of them, they'll be self-assemble back on surface. So we're using this way to control how can keep the balance between how to can a longer like friction properties. Also, we can control the properties as well.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to Alexander and Yulong. This now concludes the 3-minute presentations and Q&As. And what a wonderful job that they all did. I feel so much smarter than I did just 60 minutes ago. The jury will now deliberate for the next 20 minutes. We'll be back soon to announce the top 3 winners who will represent New South Wales, the ACT and Victoria at the Falling Walls Lab Australia finale on September the 18th. And don't forget to cast your vote in the People's Choice. You'll have until the jury returns, so you can do so on YouTube or Facebook, where the event is being live streamed. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, enjoy some interesting videos, especially for you.
Can we change the world in 3 minutes? 3 young Australian researchers will try to do just that at the Falling Walls Lab finale in Berlin, an international forum for the next generation of outstanding thinkers and innovators. They will each present a 3-minute pitch alongside 100 other finalists from more than 55 labs across the globe.
It's very exciting. It's an amazing opportunity. I will be able to talk to different people, so potentially there might be a company that's interested in commercializing the platform.
Dr. Eleanor Schneider-Fuschig has developed a platform that measures drug concentrations in cystic fibrosis patients to evaluate and predict patient outcomes.
So patients currently only have life expectancies of about 40 years, which is not good enough just yet. So we still need to work on giving them longer life expectancies and helping them live better lives.
Kate Seacombe is investigating the gut microbiome's role in personalising cancer treatments to prevent intestinal toxicity, which can have a debilitating effect on a patient's quality of life.
Being able to predict gut toxicity from a range of cancer treatments is going to save money, it's going to save people's embarrassment, save pain, just really be able to increase people's quality of life during cancer treatment.
Rhys Pirrie has developed a chemical recycling process to take waste glass, which is currently going to landfill, and turn it into everyday products like fertilisers, detergents, and even toothpaste.
One of the things I like to say is we don't have a waste problem, we have a lack of incentive to recycle. So if we can increase the value of the waste products that we're trying to recycle, then it provides that incentive to actually use it in useful products.
From the side effects of medical treatments to a global waste problem, which of these walls will fall next?
The Australian Academy of Science, because questions need answers.
For stargazers, this is the ultimate light show. Auroras are normally only seen in polar latitudes, which is why they're often labelled the Northern and Southern Lights. But this photo was taken in the central New South Wales city of Dubbo. Auroras happen when charged particles from the sun interact with Earth's magnetic field. The Southern Lights, or Aurora Australis, are usually photographed from Antarctica or parts of Tasmania. The dancing lights are being spotted over a greater area right now because the solar cycle is nearing its peak. This is a really special time, says Carly Noon from the Australian National University. We're seeing a lot of solar flares and a lot of really high energy wind coming from the sun. The aurora, seen across an unusually large part of southern Australia, was likely caused by a blast of charged plasma from the sun's outer layers, known as a coronal mass ejection. CMEs travel slower than solar flares and often cause particularly beautiful auroras. But if you missed that one, experts say the best time to see Aurora Australis is typically during winter months, from places with little interference from big city lights.
Can love be explained by science? The University of Queensland's Dr. Loic Yengo says our genome can offer some clues.
Just by looking at genetic variants in the population, I can tell whether
in a given population, people tend to select their partners based on similarities, on intelligence or susceptibility to diseases.
Dr. Yengo studies genetic variants that influence our character traits. He's identified a correlation between specific variants and couples. His work suggests we tend to choose partners with similar traits to our own, and this could have an impact on future generations.
If people in a population select their spouses on, say, the susceptibility to a disease like schizophrenia, that will imply that over generations that the prevalence of that disease will continue to increase.
Dr. Yengo is a statistical geneticist, a line of work that has been dramatically enhanced by the technological breakthrough of genetic sequencing.
And what that means for me as a researcher is that we can now actually observe differences in the DNA sequence of individuals and try to connect those differences with the traits that we observe.
So, the next time you think it's a match made in heaven, perhaps it's actually been determined by your DNA.
The Australian Academy of Science, because questions need answers.
The war in Ukraine has had a devastating impact on the country's people.
We have 9 million displaced people within the country. We have 5 million displaced who are outside of the country.
That includes many scientists working on everything from medical research to the future of space exploration.
So the impact is huge. Imagine you out there, working in your lab, and all of a sudden you have to give up everything and move out.
Thanks to an $800,000 donation from the not-for-profit Breakthrough Prize Foundation, the Australian Academy of Science is now extending a helping hand to Ukrainian scientists.
This opportunity allows Ukrainians who are impacted to collaborate with Australia so that their research effort can continue.
The initiative will sponsor visits to Australia by Ukrainian researchers and make it easy to send data and samples to Australian research facilities with the results returned to Ukraine.
That is really important so that the research capability that's required to help rebuild their nation in the fullness of time is there and is not depleted over the course of the war.
To rebuild Ukraine, we'll need support of the world, and I think these connections which will be built as a result of the program will help us better help Ukraine in the future.
For more information, head to science.org.au/Ukraine research.
For many animals, their sex is determined by their genetics. But researchers have found that the sex of some species at birth is determined by their environment.
They do it by temperature, and we've always wondered, how does that work?
Distinguished Professor Jenny Graves and collaborators at the University of Canberra have spent the last 2 decades studying this phenomenon in Australian dragon lizards. The lizard's sex is determined by sex chromosomes. When the eggs are incubated between 22 degrees Celsius and 32 degrees Celsius, the usual temperature range in the wild, ZZ eggs hatch as males and ZW eggs hatch as females. But when the temperatures rose above 34 degrees Celsius, the team noticed something strange.
Amazingly, what we found is at the higher temperature, the ZZ eggs, which should have turned into males, they turned into females. So they hatch as females, and amazingly, they're fertile.
Because these sex-reversed females can successfully mate with males, it has wiped out the female W chromosome.
So we've changed the whole sex-determining system. We've shifted it from genetic sex to environmental sex in 1 generation.
Temperature also drives sex determination in other reptiles such as alligators and sea turtles. It's a system that could have huge implications as the Earth's climate warms.
If global climate change keeps on getting hotter, we're going to have all-female lizards. We have all-female turtles and all-male alligators. Not going to work very well.
Scientists are now looking at whether different species could adapt to rising temperatures and avoid the disappearance of one sex.
Microplastics are a byproduct of the world's ever-growing plastic pollution problem.
Produced by the breakdown of larger plastics, microplastics are small and hard to see and have gradually spread everywhere, even in the air we breathe. Now, researchers have found for the first time that these airborne microplastics may have a direct impact on climate change. Modelling suggests they play a role in both cooling and warming the Earth's atmosphere. Lead author Dr. Laura Revell says airborne microplastics are efficient at scattering sunlight, which implies a cooling effect on climate. However, they can also absorb radiation emitted by the Earth, meaning that they contribute in a very small way to the greenhouse effect. And these impacts on climate change are expected to become more significant as microplastic pollution increases in the future. About 5 billion tonnes of plastic worldwide have already gone to landfill or the natural environment, and this figure is expected to double in the next 3 decades. That would mean a lot more microplastics circulating in the air and present in the Earth's atmosphere for many years to come. Dr. Revell points out that if the global average concentration of airborne microplastics increases to values already seen in some megacities, then their effect on climate will be significant and potentially similar in size to other atmospheric aerosols routinely included in climate models. More research will be conducted to determine the full extent of the impact of microplastic pollution on climate change.
The Australian Academy of Science, because questions need answers.
The scientists say this probably means they are dealing with some new deadly sexually transmitted disease.
It's been 40 years since the first description of AIDS-related illnesses. We still don't have a cure or even a vaccine, but experts in the field say that doesn't tell the full story.
40 years seems a very long time. However, the progress in HIV has been extraordinary. I mean, in many ways, it's, to me, the biggest and most important scientific advance in the last century, because we developed a way of managing a virus that had a universal death sentence and make it a completely manageable chronic illness, all through science and the availability of antiviral drugs.
HIV is a virus that gradually destroys cells used by the body to fight off disease. It can severely damage your immune system, making it much easier to develop diseases such as tuberculosis and some cancers. The most advanced stage of HIV is known as AIDS.
Even in Australia, about 1 in 5 people diagnosed with HIV are diagnosed so late their immune function has deteriorated to a point where they have AIDS.
But overall, new cases of HIV in Australia have halved over the last decade. In fact, Sydney is on track to become the first place in the world to end community transmission of HIV by 2025.
It's time to make history.
Effective elimination is defined as a 90% reduction in new cases over a decade. The big improvement is largely due to high testing rates and preventative measures taken by gay and bisexual communities. But infection rates in the heterosexual population haven't fallen as sharply. The Kirby Institute's Professor Rebecca Guy says the data shows why regular sexual health checkups are critical.
The test is like the gateway to a whole range of things that are important for a person. So you think about HIV, if you have a test and you find out it's positive, you can start treatment straight away and you can live the same longevity of life as everyone else and remain healthy.
While accessing an HIV test is relatively simple in Australia, the same can't be said for many places in the world.
People at risk of HIV, men who have sex with men, for example, there are still countries that criminalise that activity. And so how can you get a public health message out if the activity is considered criminal?
Even where it's not illegal, the stigma around HIV can sometimes drive down testing rates. That's one reason the Kirby has led the push for more screening options, including self-testing kits for people to use at home.
They're not quite as accurate as a lab test, but I guess the way I always think about it is having a test, even if it's less accurate, is better than no test at all.
Professor Sharon Lewin is a Fellow of the Australian Academy of Science and President of the International AIDS Society. As head of the Doherty Institute, she played a key role in fighting COVID-19, a virus that we managed to have vaccines for within 12 months. So why haven't we been able to do the same with HIV?
Well, HIV is a very different virus to COVID or influenza, which are viruses that can be completely cleared from the body. HIV is unable to be cleared from the body, and that's because it's a virus, part of a family, that's able to become part of a person's DNA.
And that happens within hours of a person becoming infected. Treatments allow the immune system to recover and can even stop the virus from being passed on. But the virus doesn't disappear. It's just hiding and will re-emerge if treatment stops. Professor Lewin has dedicated her career to understanding this phenomenon, known as HIV latency.
I've been on the hunt for understanding where the virus hides, how to mimic latency in laboratory models, and ways to coax it out of hiding.
While we don't yet have a vaccine, we do have access to a medicine that can help prevent HIV, known as PrEP. If taken correctly, the daily tablet can lower the risk of infection by 99%.
In Australia, we have a public health system that makes medicine free, essentially. We have a fantastically mobilised, vocal and articulate gay community that have done a lot of the education around accessing PrEP, and our uptake of PrEP is one of the highest in the world.
PrEP doesn't offer protection from other sexually transmitted infections, so doctors recommend the use of condoms. Professor Lewin says PrEP is just one of many advances in HIV research that goes to show the power of science. She believes it's only a matter of time before HIV is cured once and for all.
It's become a very important, high priority area of research because we now have treatment, we now have widespread access to treatment. Treatment's relatively simple. The next big challenge is finding a cure.
Taking medicine in the future could be as simple as eating a salad.
The example that we're actually doing at the moment is to have a multiple sclerosis drug in tomatoes so that people with chronic multiple sclerosis could maybe have their Greek salad and have some level of medical protection from the disease.
These drugs are based on molecules known as peptides. They are smaller than proteins and carry out important biological functions such as regulating other molecules, and some even act as hormones. Several peptides have pharmaceutical potential, including as potent painkillers. But because most break down if they're taken by mouth, Professor David Craik and his colleagues have engineered them into more stable circular peptides called cyclotides. Cyclotides are naturally found in some plants, so Professor Craik's team can embed them into edible plants such as tomatoes.
One of the issues with current painkillers is that often they don't work, and then we also know with opioids there are horrible addiction problems in the so-called opioid crisis. This is a different class of molecule that doesn't have those addictive effects.
Professor Craik says the potential applications extend beyond chronic pain and disease to areas including agriculture.
We could be creating a new biofarming industry in Australia where farmers could be, rather than growing a crop that might be worth $100 a tonne, it could be worth $100,000 a tonne by producing a high-value medicine in those plants.
The innovation isn't far from becoming reality, with the first crops potentially commercialised in the next few years.
Obviously there's lots of regulatory and social and ethical issues that we would need to address in doing this, but I think it does open up a new world for combining agriculture and medicine and delivering medicines in a novel way.
The red imported fire ant is one of the world's worst invasive species. When they swarm in large numbers, they can kill much bigger animals through their painful sting. But fire ants are opportunistic feeders, with everything from crops to beehives to livestock known to fall victim.
Red imported fire ants are a super pest. So if this super pest is allowed to spread uncontrollably, we would see a real impact in Australia.
Red imported fire ants were first detected at a port in Brisbane in 2001. Researchers at the Centre of Excellence for Biosecurity Risk Analysis say the pest has the potential to drive some plant and animal species to extinction. The key to stopping that from happening is to detect ant colonies as quickly as possible.
The first option is to send out a ground crew and they try to visually detect nests. The second option is to use odour detection dogs. They are really good with sniffing out those immature fire ant nests. And the third option is to use cameras that you mount on a helicopter, and they take images that you can later process in the lab, and any fire ant nests might show up as a yellow spot on your image.
The red imported fire ant is just one of many threats on the radar of Zebra's researchers.
The modelling that we've done here at Zebra is one of a kind, doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. We're the only lab really that is modelling more than one pest or disease in the landscape at a particular time period, and that significantly increases the complexity of the modelling task.
But it's worth the effort. Biosecurity safeguards our way of life and our bottom line. For every dollar invested, the average return is estimated at $30.
What you care about is not the risk ranking when you're looking at rates of return, but risk reduction. And that's something like what a rate of return measures. It's measuring if I spend $1, I can avoid $30 in damages.
Research shows the potential damage to our economy would be around $672 billion over 50 years if biosecurity didn't exist. $672 billion. Industries like agriculture, forestry, fisheries and tourism would all take severe hits, as would Australia's unique ecosystem.
That's why we have a biosecurity system in place, because we want to continue to enjoy a natural environment, we want to have clean, green, healthy food, free of pesticides, and we want to have a really strong and productive economy.
Well, hello everyone. The jury, I am told, is getting closer, but they're not quite there yet. They've asked for another 10 minutes to deliberate. It's obviously some very tough competition between our participants today. So we'll be back with you very shortly once the jury has reached a decision.
My name's Matthew England. I'm a professor of ocean and climate dynamics at the University of New South Wales. I study how the oceans respond to climate variations and climate change.
My name is Adele Morrison. I study oceanography at the Australian National University in Canberra.
At the centre of their work is how water moves around the planet. Surface currents are powered by wind patterns, but deep underwater currents are driven by different layers of density in a process known as overturning circulation.
The ocean plays a big role in global climate by moving heat and carbon and also nutrients around, which affects ecosystems in the ocean. Changes that happen in one small location, like say near Antarctica, can then have a global influence because those waters move all throughout the whole planet.
And it's the Antarctic overturning circulation that has these scientists worried. They're two of the authors of a landmark study published in Nature that makes a dire projection closely related to the melting of the ice caps.
And what we see in that simulation is that the meltwater rate that we expect to play out over the next few decades is enough to slow down that overturning at a very dramatic rate, about 40% reduction by 2050.
Meltwater is a clear consequence of climate change. As ice caps melt, huge amounts of fresh water enter the oceans. The resulting reduction in salinity makes the water much less dense, meaning it doesn't sink with the same force.
So the dense water is important because it's a major driving factor in the global overturning circulation, which is this conveyor belt of waters that move around the whole ocean. And so this formation of dense water pushes that water down into the abyss, and then throughout the rest of the global ocean that moves up again in different places around the globe.
A slowdown in the overturning, particularly by 40%, would have a profound impact on marine ecosystems.
The thing about the oceans is that all of the marine life that we have at the surface, when it dies off, it sinks to the bottom of the ocean. So there's a lot of nutrient-rich water in the ocean abyss. If we slow down the overturning circulation that brings that very bottom water back up to the surface, we cut off a way that nutrients get back to the surface to regenerate marine life.
Their projection is based on advanced modelling that doesn't just factor in meltwater, but captures key regions of Antarctica with unprecedented skill.
And this is particularly important around Antarctica because there's a lot of small-scale processes that are important for this dense water formation.
A slowdown of the North Atlantic overturning circulation has already been documented. But this latest study shows that overturning in the Antarctic region could decelerate at twice the rate.
I should also say there's actually evidence in the ocean abyss that the mechanism we've described is already playing out. There's been significant warming of the ocean abyss, and that's exactly what our model projections show, that as the ice melt slows the overturning circulation down, you do get a warming of the ocean abyss. And if anything, our models are a bit behind where the observations are already tracking. So all the evidence we have suggests that we will have a slowdown of this overturning circulation in the next couple of decades.
These are fish oil tablets, right? Well, not quite. In fact, no fish were used in the making of these tablets.
This is a vegetarian source of fish oils.
But the pills contain the exact same omega-3 that's found in fish. So how is this possible? Well, CSIRO's Dr. Surinder Singh managed to modify the common canola plant to produce omega-3 oils.
Because of the health benefits of fish and the fish oils, the demand for these is really escalating. This is basically becoming a problem of how much fish there is out there in the oceans. If we can create a oilseed crop that can then be cropped across the world, this can provide an alternative source of these omega-3 oils.
And it's also less risky for our health because the plant-based omega-3 isn't impacted by heavy metal contaminants found in some areas of the world's oceans.
These types of omega-3 oils coming up from the canola crop will be totally pure.
So there you have it, fish oil without the fish.
The Australian Academy of Science, because questions need answers.
Are you a woman working in STEM and keen for more career opportunities? Well, if so, join me in signing up for Australia's most comprehensive Women in STEM database right now. Your information will be available to thousands of organisations keen to provide connections and visibility for women in STEM. Potential opportunities include conference panels, board positions, and event hosting. Developed by the Australian Academy of Science, the STEM Women Database is a platform to promote your talents. It's free, easy to use, and it saves time. This is a valuable resource for women working in STEM to showcase their talents and also for organisations who want to create new opportunities. So for more information, go to stemwomen.org.au.
Not a bad view, right? But let's pull back a little. Some things we can only see from space. The remarkable images we get from satellites enable us to keep track of everything from pollution to cyclones. That makes them a critical tool for keeping Australians safe. But there's something that may surprise you about these eyes in the sky.
None of those satellites are owned by Australia. If they break, if those countries or companies decide not to let us have access to them, we lose our weather forecasting capability, our ability to predict and respond to natural disasters like cyclones, floods and fires.
Professor Stuart Finn knows a lot about satellites. He uses them to map and monitor the health of our waterways, such as creeks, rivers and lakes. The satellites are equipped with sensors that measure reflected sunlight.
And the amount of reflected sunlight coming back to the satellites is controlled by what's in the water, so organic matter or sediments.
Professor Finn is one of the main drivers of Aquawatch Australia.
Well, welcome back to our audience, presenters, and to our jury. Now, before we get to announcing the winners, let's quickly recap our 10 presenters. Breaking the wall of paediatric brain stimulation, Alex Griffin from the Cerebral Palsy Alliance at the University of Sydney. Breaking the wall of artificial intelligence security, Andrew Cullen from the University of Melbourne. Breaking the wall of construction stigma, BUDDHINI GINIGADDARA from the University of Newcastle. Breaking the wall of scientific history, CARA from Macquarie University. Breaking the wall of eating disorders, COURTNEY from Monash University. Breaking the wall of costly image analysis, HELIA FARHOOD from Macquarie University. Breaking the wall of mental health care, Madeline Bisbee from Macquarie University. Breaking the wall of dust at work, Paris Papagiannis from Monash University. Breaking the wall of preventable diseases, Peter Alango from RMIT University. And breaking the wall of industrial lubricant pollution, Yulong Sun from the University of New South Wales. Now, please welcome Jury Chair, Professor Alison Roger.
Right. Thank you, Paul. First of all, apologies for us being a bit delayed. As you probably guessed, we found that our conversation was really, really challenging because we had such a range of really good presentations that cross scientific disciplines and approaches, and we were really excited about them, and we were just having a lot of trouble. So I would like to congratulate all our presenters on the wonderful job that you all did, and bringing your idea of a case for the next wall to fall as a result of scientific endeavour. What we're going to do now is announce the 3 place winners in the order, reverse order, as is always the case in these sorts of events. And then we will move on to the People's Award. So I would like to announce that the 3rd place is awarded to, and I meant to pause here. That was meant to be a drum roll. It didn't come across very well on my sound, so hopefully you appreciate that we're very excited about this. Our 3rd place is awarded to the Paediatric Brain Stimulation from Alex Griffin. Congratulations, Alex. And I meant to invite you to say a few more words.
Oh, thank you. I'm thrilled. It's so fantastic to be able to share this research. So thank you for the opportunity, and a big thank you to our research teams and of course our participants too. Thank you.
Good. Well, all the very best with it as you take it into the future. Now, as we move on to the 2nd place candidate, I would like to make that announcement. I meant to get a drum roll here. So our 2nd place contestant is Industrial Lubricant Pollution by Yulong Sun. Congratulations, Yulong, for a lovely presentation.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really happy to get the seat, and to be honest, it's really a big encouragement to me because I'm keeping doing very fundamental molecular science in the past 10 years. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure. All the very best with the work in the future. And my final job today is to congratulate our 1st place winner, who is, drum roll. Am I getting a drum roll or not? Thank you very much. Is preventable diseases from Peter Elango. Congratulations, Peter.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say a few words or just take a really deep breath?
Well, thank you very much. A breath too, but yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity to present my work, I believe, and I'm really glad everyone enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. So we've chosen 3 winners, but that doesn't mean that everybody else is not also a winner. It's a major achievement to have got to this stage, and we all really enjoyed all your presentations. So particular congratulations to our winners, but also I would like to encourage the people who didn't quite get to the top of the list to keep going with their work and to work out how to break down the walls using science to face the challenges that we are all looking ahead to. So congratulations, everybody. Well done.
Beautifully done, Alison. Thank you so much. And our congratulations to all the presenters and in particular our winners. Now, last but not least, I would like to announce the People's Choice winner. And according to the votes on social media, the People's Choice winner is... is also to Peter Elango, breaking the wall of preventable diseases. Peter, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to say, but I'd like to invite you to say a few words.
Well, thanks again, and I'm glad people enjoyed the presentation. I'm really glad I had the opportunity to convey my work to a large audience. Thank you.
Wonderful. Congratulations once again. Well, before we conclude, may I request that Mr. Nishant Shandilia join me now to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. I thoroughly enjoyed this particular event, and on behalf of DAAD Australia, EURAXIS Australia and New Zealand, Federal Foreign Office of Germany and the Australian Academy of Science, I'd like to sincerely thank everyone involved in the event. Of course, to begin with, a big thanks to our jury members, Professor Alison Roger, Professor Alexander Meyer, Professor Benjamin Rubinstein, Professor Francis Separovich, Professor Michael Lurk, Professor Rebecca Ivers, Professor Ronika Pawar, Professor Bina Sahajwala, and my colleague, Mr. Michael Reich. Of course, a big thanks to our co-organizer colleagues as well, Silke and Michael, and our great technical support team from Big Voice, Daniel, Jack, and Liam, for doing an amazing job of bringing us this event and to a wider audience who are watching us from different parts of the country. And last but not the least, a big thank you to you, Paul, for being an amazing MC and running the event in the smoothest way possible. I think that's it from my end, and over to you, Paul.
All right, thank you so much, Nishana. It was my great pleasure. So I'd like to thank the event organisers as well, both locally and globally, who make Falling Walls Lab possible. We'd like to encourage everyone to take part in Falling Walls Lab Australia 2023. The organising team will share details of those who registered for today's event and on our social media channels for that finale event. So we hope that you'll tune in September. This now concludes Falling Walls Lab Sydney 2023. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I think we are off air.